What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about a couple different topics here, and these ones are more interesting because it goes into Nintendo and Furukawa and his thought process on how or why the Nintendo Switch didn't hit or will not hit its 20 million forecasted goal that they had for last year and why they had to revise down. And we're also going to be talking about Square Enix as well and if they can rebound from a subpar 2018. So let's go ahead and get into the first topic here, and that's going to be Nintendo and what Furukawa had to say on the Nintendo Switch missing that goal of 20 million for the FY 2019 and also revising it and why they did not hit that goal. Then of course I'll give my opinion on that. So this was from a recent investors meeting and the quotes just got translated. So there's a ton of different stuff that we'll be going over, but I wanted to talk about this one first. Here was the question posed by the investor. Regarding the downward revision of the Nintendo Switch hardware unit sales forecast for this fiscal year, what is different now compared to your expectations at the start of the fiscal year? I'd like to know how many units you intend to sell in this coming fiscal year and your sales strategy for doing so. And here was the response from Shuntaro Furukawa. This holiday season, we were able to release 3 major titles: Super Mario Party, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And we're able to grow our year-on-year hardware sales in every region. Yet despite having been able to sell fairly large volume of hardware during the holiday season, it is true that we now do not anticipate reaching the forecasted 12-month sales volume set at the beginning of the fiscal year. As we look back so far for this fiscal year, we now evaluate that our efforts to fully convey the appeal of the Nintendo Switch hardware and software to the number of new consumers we originally hoped to reach were insufficient. And from the viewpoint of our full year unit sales forecast for this fiscal year, while we expected that releasing titles during the holiday season would help to increase sales, the year-on-year sales increase during the first half of the fiscal year, April to September, turned out not big enough, which also affected the revision of the unit forecast as we look back now. We will talk about the fiscal year in more detail at a later time, but basically we want to further increase both our hardware and software unit sales more than this fiscal year. We want to further enrich our software lineup and convey its appeal to consumers so that they decide this calendar year they would buy Nintendo Switch. So let's talk about this just a little bit. So he said that they weren't able to fully convey the appeals of the Switch to everyone, but I think the bigger thing here is that first half. I think that's what a lot of people also said. Hey, the first half for Nintendo in 2018 wasn't as good as it could have been. There were ports, there were other games from PlayStation 4, there was multi-platform games. I mean, I thought it was good, right? Because I was playing a bunch of different third-party games and everything, but I think that there wasn't enough of the bigger hitter titles, right? Of like the Super Smash Bros. Or Pokemon Let's Go or games like that in the first half, which caused issues. But I think that one thing that he didn't say, which I know was a big issue, I know Nintendo wanted to have Fire Emblem out in the first half of 2018. They announced that game in 2017. Fire Emblem games always get a spring type of release window, and I know that Fire Emblem was a game that they wanted to have. If they did have Fire Emblem in the spring of 2018, I feel that they would have easily hit their sales forecast because Fire Emblem is a type of game, especially with what they were doing with that one, if it was as quality as they wanted to make it. Obviously it got delayed for quality reasons to make it better than what it was, but let's just say it was ready to go and they could have had it out in early 2018. I think that they would have easily hit their forecast or would have been right there. They wouldn't have revised anything because Fire Emblem is the type of game that can move an additional 2.5 to 3 million units of people who haven't bought it yet. Fire Emblem is a game that you're going to have a dedicated fan base for, and yes, it's not going to be like Super Smash Bros. Where it's just like crazy amount of sales and so many people go out there and buy it, but it is going to be a game that in my opinion could be bigger than a Super Mario Party. I think it's a 5 to 7, 8 million unit seller considering the current climate of the Nintendo Switch and what people are looking for. A lot of RPGs have done very well that weren't as popular beforehand but have become more popular, and I think that this would have been the game on the Nintendo Switch, the Fire Emblem first real HD title. It would have really drove a lot of hardware units, and people who have never played Fire Emblem before would have went out there and picked that one up and picked up a Switch, and I think that it would have hit the goal. So I think that's what he was trying to allude to, because he said that the first half that they had, like the April to September, wasn't as much as they thought they would have gotten, so they were kind of dipping there, and that kind of affected what they did at the end because they didn't have enough sales in that time period from the April to September. And I feel split, since he did say April to September. That's right where Fire Emblem would have released. That is that spring release window, spring to summer release window where Fire Emblem games usually come out. But I think at the same time, Nintendo's being really hard on themselves when they talk about they weren't able to sufficiently like put the appeal of the Switch out there. And I think maybe that might be the case, but I think it's more so Fire Emblem getting delayed more so than anything else. But that's just my thought process on the matter. What do you guys think about what Nintendo has to say here? And what do you think their forecast is going to be for this upcoming year? I'm thinking that they're going to try to do around 18 to 19 million. So what do you guys think about what Shuntaro Furukawa has to say here? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, we're going to be discussing Square Enix and if they can rebound from a somewhat low year or off year that they did have. Recently, they had their investors meeting and they talked about how, you know what, things weren't so good for 2018 just because of certain sales numbers, and they really didn't have anything major, right? There was no major Final Fantasy game that came out. There was no major Kingdom Hearts game that came out, because Kingdom Hearts came out this year and that did really well. But 2018 necessarily wasn't Square Enix's best year. So let's talk about what they can do to rebound and some of the stuff that I've been hearing around when it comes to Square Enix. So I think one of the big things with Square Enix, at least with 2019, the focus should be is how can we invigorate what we've done before. I think Square Enix, just like Nintendo, just like Bandai Namco, just like Capcom, they have a lot of great classic IPs that they can bring back and they can bring to the forefront, and I feel that this could be a great year for them to finally show those off. We talked about Business Division 11. These are the guys that do stuff like Octopath Traveler, also Bravely Default. This should be a big year for them when it comes to an announcement, so maybe we see a brand new Bravely Default game. And speaking of Business Division 11, that was one of the bright spots of Square Enix's 2018. Now, we're not talking about 2019. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts 3 did really well, but 2018, Octopath Traveler was a game that actually boosted sales because they're getting $60 from an Unreal Engine 4 HD 2D style of game. So definitely big profit margins on that one, because we all know that Octopath Traveler's development budget wasn't anything major or anything like that. And on top of that, Nintendo helped out with the development of their game, marketing, and paying for it anyway. So Square Enix definitely saw some nice profits on that one, and they did talk about that in their business meetings and their financial calls. So I think that going forward, they can capitalize on that. There is a huge audience out there on Switch that wants to be able to play their style of RPG games. They have Final Fantasy ports coming out this year. I think those can do a lot better than what people are thinking that they're going to do, just because they're already out on other systems like PC and also on the PlayStation 4, and of course it's coming to the Xbox One. So I do feel that that is going to be really good for them. They also have the old school games coming over, right? So you have Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9 as well. So that's really all going to help. But what's going to be the big hitter? I mean, they haven't really talked too much about that Avengers project. We don't know what's going on with that one. We just don't really have much information. Could that be a 2019 game? I'm not so sure about that. And what else do they have? They already got a Final Fantasy game out a couple of years ago, right? They canceled all the plans with Final Fantasy 15. So I don't think Final Fantasy 16 is ready. I don't think Final Fantasy 7 Remake is ready to show off this year. I mean, I think it might be another rough year for them outside of what they're going to do on a couple different titles when it comes to Switch. I know that they have that one game. I can't exactly remember the name of it, but it is like a front mission, or it's like a Armored Core type of game. And of course, I'll have it up for you guys and the name. So they do have that, and I think that's going to be coming out this year. But how much appeal does that type of game have overall in the grand scheme of things? So it seems like Square Enix might have another rough year, but I do think that recently there were some trademarks, right? So they had the Secret of Mana collection that was trademarked, or at least all the original names of those games. So maybe Square Enix finally decides to bring over this game. This would be 2 years in the making. I think that was a 2017 title, which it comes with Secret of Mana, the original. It comes with Secret of Mana 2, Seiken Densetsu 3, but of course they're called different names here in the West, but we would get it as the Secret of Mana collection. So maybe that can help out just a bit. That's obviously not a major game or anything like that, but I'm not really sure what Square Enix is going to have for us and what's in store. I'm pretty sure they do have some surprises here and there. I know about one port that could be potentially coming over to the Switch from Square Enix, but nothing too major when it comes to it. So what's going to be going down? What can Square Enix do going forward? And I personally feel like if I was in charge of Square Enix, definitely getting more respect and getting some more time and development, maybe into some of their classic IPs. I think a new Chrono Trigger would be definitely in line at some point. Obviously, they just can't pull it out of nowhere, but I feel that this could be the year maybe that something gets done in that realm. Maybe not really sure on that one, but What do you guys think about Square Enix? How do you think they can go about having a good 2019, and if they can rebound or not? I'm just looking forward to some of the stuff that they're going to be bringing over, like the Final Fantasy games coming over to the Switch, maybe Secret of Mana collection, but I'm not really sure what else they have for us outside of that big Avengers project. What other big titles do they have for 2019 that they could show off this year? So we'll have to wait and see on that one, but what do you guys think about all this when it comes to Square Enix and also what Nintendo had to say? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright Ninja, that wraps it up for this video here. Go and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps to spread the content of PlayerEssence across the internet in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube live gaming pages. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you Ninja for the next video. Peace.